In this video, I will use Chinese TV to prove that media can be anti-sex work and feminist at the same time. In the modern West, liberal feminism is a prevailing belief within left-wing politics. It asserts that women are empowered when they objectify themselves, and that sex work is good. Radical feminism, by comparison, is a form of feminism that champions the opposite position. Radical feminism is sex negative. It sees all forms of porn, sex work, and objectification as disempowering. It argues that these things principally advantage men. The porn industry, for example, emotionally and physically harms women to gratify a predominantly male audience. Additionally, the main profiteers are not the female sex workers but the male owners of these platforms, who have made billions. Women who believe the porn industry is unchangeably patriarchal due to the nature of male sexual desire are often disparagingly referred to as swerfs, or sex work exclusionary radical feminists, even though the reason these women want to abolish sex work is because they have the best interests of sex workers in mind. Radical feminism does not mean extreme feminism, as many often misunderstand. Rather, it is more accurately referred to as root feminism, because it tackles the root issues of feminism instead of the superficial. Though the prevailing structure of feminism in Western media is liberal feminism, in most non-Western countries, radical feminism is favored due to its more practical nature. After all, it is easy to overlook the dangers of, for example, street sex work when you are living in a nice apartment in a first world country. Worldwide, most women intuitively accept that sex work is perilous. Princess Agents, otherwise known as The Legend of Chu Qiao, is a 2017 Chinese drama directed by Wu Jinyang. It stars Zhao Liying as Chu Qiao, a tenacious young woman with a cryptic past. The story follows her journey to become a spy and warrior in ancient China. She's a brilliant fighter and a speedy learner, rapidly becoming one of the most adept fighters. The tone of the TV show would be translated by Western audiences as regressive in some ways. All the women are always fully covered and there is zero hint of sex positivity. Yet assuming the show is not feminist would be gravely erroneous. The show is simply radical feminist rather than liberal feminist. Princess Agents encourages women to be equally as competent as men, while denouncing sex work as exploitative. It spotlights the sad and abusive nature of prostitution. Particularly, there is this scene where servant women are chosen and forced to serve an immoral, affluent man in his palace. The man is cruel and ends up assaulting and unaliving all the women. One of the deceased women was like a sister to the main character, Chu Qiao, and she processes her grief. The tragedy of the effects of sex work is clearly stated. There is no sugarcoating of the horrifying nature of prostitution.
我会照顾好小七、小八。姐姐，你之前告诉我要忍着，要活着，我都答应你了。但我不明白是为什么。而到了现在，我看到你们像没有生命的萝卜白菜一样被扔在这里。所以，我不会再忍了。
Note that there is no, but if she chose to do this, it would have been empowering, bullshit. There's no hint of the flawed thinking of choice feminism, which implies that because a woman consents to mistreatment, that it is okay. Prostitution is exploitative whether or not the woman chooses it. Princess Agents shows the sex buyer as what he is, not as the lie of a kind feminist left-wing man, but as the truth of an exploitative psychopath. The show takes this even further by promoting male sexual restraint. The main love interest in the TV show, Yu and Yue, is a man of good character. A female assassin tries to fool him through seduction. I do not think sex workers should be villainized, though I do believe in accountability for all people, and if a woman has resorted to murdering not for the sake of self-defense, this is not a virtuous person and she should not be presented as such. Yuan Yue is not seduced and easily both sees through the deception and has no interest sexually in a woman whom he does not know. In fact, he does not show any interest in any woman other than the main heroine ever. This proves that he is the type of man who values emotional depth and strength of character over physical attributes and short-term gratification. It is exceptionally doubtful that the majority of single modern men, both left and right wing, would have the strength or ethics to see through the female assassin's coercion. Princess Agents confirms that one can be both anti-sex work and deeply feminist. Here are some things that prove that the show is in fact feminist, whilst being sex negative. A key component of the story is Chu Qiao training hard and developing her combat skills. The show goes through great lengths to stress the necessity of sharpness and diligence in women, and a sort of stubbornness, a resolute unwillingness to give up. In this scene, a group of servant girls are competing for a promotion. They are tested on their ability to memorize a text, but Chu Qiao does not know how to read. Still, she is able to memorize the text patterns perfectly. The test administrator then challenges her to sign her work. Cleverly, she uses a stamp to mark her work instead. She is illiterate, even so, she is astonishingly quick-witted. A distinction between Western heroines and Chinese heroines is that Chinese heroines are ideals, whereas Western heroines are purposefully flawed to promote relatability. There is indeed merit in writing flawed characters for storytelling and growth. Yet at times, there may be equal merit in having an ideal that people can use as a model for behavior. The most notable quality of Chu Qiao is her unyielding morality. For example, in one scene, this nobleman, as means to gain political power, tries to assassinate another nobleman. The assassination attempt is through use of poisoned wine. The assassin nobleman cruelly teases that if the wine is not drunk by his target, he will kill a servant girl. In ancient China, the lives of servants were expendable. Peasants could easily lose their lives any time. Chu Qiao, having earlier overheard that the wine is poisoned, and also knowing that both noblemen are fully aware that the wine is poisoned, infers that the servant girl will definitely lose her life.
这样下去，姐姐必死无疑。
Chu Qiao is a servant girl herself, and knows that her own life is expendable, but interferes anyway, in front of everyone. She has the courage to do what no one else had the guts to do. She says that she is willing to be punished in place of the other servant girl, and she is hanged upside down from a tree. She nearly dies, but is saved by one of the noblemen, the main love interest of the show. A hallmark trait of Chinese heroines is calmness and emotional control. Chinese heroines are never easily provoked. They have a sense of quiet confidence in even the most distressing and dangerous of situations. The only time a Chinese heroine is emotional is during times of grief, in which the emotion is highly justified, but when facing enemies, she is never even remotely bothered. Princess Agents excels at juxtaposing men of virtue with men of vice. In the first episode, an evil nobleman organizes a game and invites some male acquaintances. The acquaintances are unaware of the nature of the game. The evil nobleman reveals that he has gathered a bunch of female slaves. He divides the men into two teams. The purpose of the game is to unalive as many female slaves labeled as the opposing team while protecting the ones labeled as the home team. The men of vice proceed to kill female slaves, while the men of virtue, shocked by the brutal nature of the game, do everything they can to save as many women as possible. Through this scene, the show promotes chivalry, a fading virtue in the modern era. Part 2. The Story of Yanxi Palace. The second Chinese TV show I'm going to analyze is The Story of Yanxi Palace, a 2018 drama directed by Hui Kaidong and Wen Deguang. It is not to be confused with the spin-off show currently available on Netflix. The Story of Yanxi Palace stars Wu Jinyang as Wei Yingluo, a young woman who gets a job as a seamstress to investigate the mysterious death of her sister in the royal palace. What makes this show radical feminist rather than liberal feminist is not necessarily any particular scene it has, but what it lacks. In most liberal feminist films, there is often a saturation of unnecessary sex scenes. There is a certain cavalierness to sex. This is not present in Chinese dramas. In fact, most of the dress and costume in Yanxi Palace would be seen as conservative. Though it is not too over-the-top conservative to the point of misogyny, it is not reminiscent of burqas or Middle Eastern dress. The clothing still highlights female beauty without being sexual. In Western media, women are encouraged to have casual sex with men, while discouraged from pedestalizing those men. In Chinese media, women are discouraged from both casual sex and pedestalizing men. Although generally anti-sex, the story of Yanxi Palace is in fact a feminist show. Not liberal feminist, but radical feminist. Like Chu Qiao, Wei Yingluo is incredibly quick-witted and has a sharp tongue. She is able to navigate dangerous royal politics. When she visits the palace for the first time, she sees a rich palace girl berating a peasant girl for accidentally spilling water on her opulent dress. Wei Yingluo is the only one to stand up for her. Since it is the important day when noblewomen apply to be concubines of the emperor, Wei Yingluo calms the noblewoman's anger by showing her how to turn her shoes into lotus stamps, so that every step she takes leaves a beautiful mark. She tells the rich palace girl that this will make her stand out, and the rich palace girl is pleased. Later on, however, it is revealed that this method of turning shoes into lotus stamps was originally created by an enemy of the emperor, and during her audition, the rich palace girl is shunned and punished. Wei Yingluo is cleverly aware of this the entire time. Another scene that showcases the wit of Wei Yingluo is when she is trying out to be a palace seamstress. While working on a design test meant to determine which of the women are competent enough to be seamstresses, she notices that the girl who was tormented earlier had her hand injured by the rich palace girls and cannot sew. Since she is almost done with her own work, Wei Yingluo tells the girl to switch designs with her, and to finish a couple of stitches. Wei Yingluo then proceeds to fix the girl's work, creating something beautiful. When the test proctor comes to evaluate everyone's designs, he declares that the injured girl's design is the best among everyone. Jealous, one of the other women claims that she cheated. Quick-witted, Wei Yingluo refutes her claim by suggesting that they were not cheating, but rather collaborating. Wei Yingluo and the injured girl collaborated on both designs, and when the two embroidery designs are combined, they make a beautiful peacock design. The test proctor is immensely impressed, and Wei Yingluo receives high praise from him.
这牡丹生动逼真，形神俱备，绣工非凡，当得第一呀！
是。吴总管，不如您先看看魏璎珞的绣活，她刺绣的时间最长，应当是最好的呢。
我来看看。常嬷嬷。
心思巧，针法也不错。吴总管，这批宫女可真是人才辈出啊！
总管，魏璎珞带人作弊。
什么？
是这样吗？
你什么你？吴总管问你话呢，吞吞吐吐的，还不赶紧说？
张嬷嬷。 都是吉祥的错，
谁说我们作弊了？不信你们瞧瞧，你们瞧，这原本就是一幅牡丹锦鸡图，因为耗时太久，需要我和吉祥合作完成。可你们，敢问一句，刚才我交给吉祥的时候。 牡丹是否并未完全绣完？同理，吉祥把锦鸡图递给我的时候，也只是寥寥几针啊，不是吗？既然都是未完成的绣图，那何来作弊之说呢？
这宫中未有先例。吴总管，您看这。
好，果然好心思。
The show additionally depicts the tragic effects of being reliant on and self-sacrificing for a man. The royal empress, although kind and caring, gives too much of herself. She sacrifices her own identity and happiness for the sake of her husband. After the death of her baby, she grieves for years. Instead of showing compassion and emotional support, the emperor coldly commands her to continue fulfilling her duties as empress, perceiving her as merely a status symbol. She loves the emperor, but this love is unrequited. Her story ends tragically, as she feels so alone and so trapped by her duties that she takes her own life, her final words alluding to her wish to be herself again, rather than an empress. Though perhaps overstated, there's an important message here, as well as in Princess Agents, and the message is to never idealize a man, no matter how wealthy or powerful he is. The most wealthy men so often have inherited wealth, which does not speak to his capacity for empathy nor his abilities. In many ways, wealth and status can be a curse that constrains one from becoming who they want to be. Perhaps a modern-day equivalent of this would be dating a social media influencer with great power, and consequently being forced to endure the corresponding societal pressures. Furthermore, men with inherited wealth tend not to be equal in character to normal men, but inferior. They too are held back by their wealth. After all, with all that unearned wealth, where is the motivation to work? Where is the determination to stay up late nights, enduring the incredible pains that are necessary for self-improvement? Success necessitates toiling away in sleepless nights in pursuit of even a glimmer of success, and if not achieved, the discipline to stay the course. Earned wealth is most often an arduous and nearly impossible struggle. What's more, people are not their parents. While it is true that the apple usually does not fall far from the tree, just because someone's parent is a certain way does not guarantee that their child would take on the same characteristics, positive or negative. Because she is fearless and does not pedestalize anyone, Wei Yingluo is often exceedingly bold in the things she says in front of royalty and people of power. She speaks her mind no matter how dangerous it may be. She is not reckless, however, and is clever enough to word it in a way that always benefits her in the long run. The delivery of her words is invariably calm and confident. This courage is eventually what wins her the love and respect of the emperor. Though it is important to note that for a great deal of time, the love is utterly unrequited, as Wei Yingluo abhorred the emperor for how he treated the empress, and for a long time sought to use his feelings to avenge the empress. The show has very few flaws, but one of them is most certainly that the protagonist ends up with such a low man. The secondary male love interest should have won out over the emperor in the end, despite his slightly lower rank. That being said, a clever woman does not pedestalize men with earned wealth either, no matter how impressive he is, even if he is of great character. This is because she is confident enough to know her own value as well, and acts in a way that would garner self-respect. The main love interest from Princess Agents, for example, was incredibly competent and had noble character, yet Chu Qiao did not pedestalize him still, out of self-respect. There are many Chinese TV shows that I would recommend if you are a radical feminist who disdains the overly sexual nature of Western media, but you still want to watch empowering content that inspires principled decision-making. Here are some additional recommendations. Princess Wei Young, Meteor Garden, The Rational Life, Nothing But 30, and Empresses in the Palace. In closing, just because a show is sex negative does not mean that it can't be feminist. I would argue that Chinese TV is more feminist for not showing sex scenes or provocative clothing. The shows are less about the women's physical features and sexual behavior, and more about their wit and enduring strength. I am new to making video essays on YouTube, but I plan to make more soon, and consistently. If you enjoyed this video, please consider following me on Twitch as well. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.